All right, guys, let's take a look at, how do we use a two-column proof to set up and solve a quadratic equation. Okay, so our given information will be the original equation. And then obviously our proof statement is going to be our solutions. What's x? Okay, so it's the same thing here. Okay, you have statements, okay, in the left column. And then you have your reason over here in the right column. Okay, reasons, whatever. Okay, so let's see. Our first statement is always the original given. Okay, in this case it's an equation. X squared plus 5x minus 66 equals 0. And our reason is always given. Okay, so our second step here, we know we're going to have to factor this. Now notice it's already in standard form, so I don't have to manipulate it at all. Okay, so I just start factoring. And notice that the greatest common factor is 1, so I can't factor anything out there. So we say, okay, let's see if we can factor this guy. Okay, so the x squared splits up into x and x. Notice that the last term is negative, so I have to have 1 plus and 1 minus. And the leading coefficient is 1. So I just say, okay, what are the factors of negative 66 that add up to positive 5? Well, that would be a positive 11 and a negative 6. Okay, so 11 times negative 6 is negative 66. 11 plus negative 6 is positive 5. Okay, so you say, well, what would your reason be? Well, this is just a type of factoring, okay, that everybody learns in algebra. Okay, so we just say factoring. Okay, and there's a number of different types of factoring. Okay, so any one of them could be used right here. Okay, all right, so what do we do next? Well, we take each of these and set them equal to 0. Okay, so we have x plus 11 equals 0. Okay, and we have x minus 6 equals 0. Okay, so you say, well, what do we say for our reason? Well, I brought this up earlier this year. Okay, this is the zero product property. Okay, so if we have our zero product property, okay, the zero product property tells us if we multiply two things together, say A times B, and we get 0, then either one or both of them are 0. Then either A equals 0 or B equals 0. So when I set both of these equal to 0, I'm applying the zero product property. So the zero product property. Okay, so we say, okay, well, what do we got to do here? Well, I would subtract 11 from both sides to solve this guy, so I would get x equals negative 11. And then in this guy, I would add 6 to both sides. So we get x equals 6. And you say, okay, well, I actually used two different properties there. Yes, you did. You used the subtraction property of equality to get x equal negative 11, and you used the addition property of equality to get x equals 6. So we could either write both of them out, or we could just say I've used the addition and subtraction properties of equality. And the plus means addition property, and the minus means subtraction property. So I've used two different properties in one step. Okay, we should check this to make sure they work out. Okay, so we have to check x equals negative 11, and then we have to check x equals 6. And so just go back up and substitute. Okay, so I have a negative 11 squared plus 5 times negative 11 minus 66 equals 0. Okay, so this gives me 121. Okay, this would be minus 55 minus 66 equals 0. And if we go 121 minus 55, we will get 66, and 66 minus 66 obviously is 0. Okay, so we're in good shape. Now, if you're ever worried about it, you just go here and just check that guy. Okay, 121 minus 55 minus 66 gives a big fat 0. So that one works. Do the same thing with x equals 6. So you go 6 squared plus 5 times 6 minus 66. Does that equal 0? So that'd be 30. Okay, I'm sorry, 36. My fault, I said 30. 36 plus 30 minus 66 equals 0. Well, 36 plus 30 is 66, and 66 minus 66 is 0, so that's good too. Okay, so we can say our proof statement obviously would be x equals negative 11 and x equals 6, which we have. Okay. Let's try the last one here. And this is another one that deals with some factoring. And so let's see, what do I have here? Okay, so my given, okay, will be 2x cubed plus 2x squared minus 60x equals 0. And then my proof, okay, will be my solutions. Okay, so let's see what we got going on. All right, we've got our statements. And we've got our reasons. Remember, your first statement is always your given information, always. Okay, so it's just the original equation, 2x cubed plus 2x squared minus 60x equals 0. Okay, and again, it's already in standard form, so I don't have to manipulate it at all. So we just got to start factoring. Okay, so the first thing we always check is the GCF. Can we factor out a GCF? And we can. Notice you have a common factor of 2, and you have a common factor of x. So we factor that out. So 2x cubed divided by 2x will give me x squared. 2x squared divided by 2x will give me x. And 60x divided by 2x will give me 30. Now, what have we done there? We've just factored. That's it. Now, if you wanted to write factoring out a GCF, you can do that if you want. It's not necessary, though. Okay, so we have this 2x out front, and now I get to factor this quadratic. Okay, so it factors into two binomials. X squared splits up into x and x. The last term, the constant term, is negative, so one's plus and one's minus. And we say, okay, the leading coefficient is 1 here, so all we ask ourselves is what factors of negative 30 add up to positive 1. Okay, so that would be a positive 6 and a negative 5. And once again, all we're doing is just factoring. Okay, that's it. Okay, so now that I have it all factored, I've got to set all of my factors equal to 0. And notice that I've got a 2x, I've got an x plus 6, and I've got an x minus 5, and all of them have variables in it, so all of them will give me a solution. So I set 2x equals 0. I set x plus 6 equals 0, and I set x minus 5 equals 0. And remember, just like the last one, when we set them all equal to 0, we are applying the 0 product property. Okay, and then we solve. So here we'd have to divide by 2, so you just get x equals 0. Here we'd subtract 6, so we get x equals negative 6. And here we would add 5, so we get x equals 5. And then you ask yourself, well, geez, didn't I just use 3 different properties? Sure. Use the division property of equality here, use the subtraction property of equality here, and use the addition property of equality here. Now, I could write out all 3 of those if I want to, but why not just go addition, subtraction, and division properties of equality? And so that takes care of the addition property of equality, which I used here, the subtraction property of equality, which I used here, and the division property of equality, which I used here. And so now it looks like we have our three solutions, which would give us our proof statement. Okay, so let's just make sure we check these and make sure it works out. So I'll check x equals 0 first. Okay, so I go back up to the original one, 2 times 0 cubed plus 2 times 0 squared minus 60 times 0. Does that equal 0? Obviously. Okay, this is 0, that's 0, and that's 0. So that one works. We check our x equals -6. Okay, so I'd have 2 times -6 cubed plus 2 times -6 squared minus 60 times -6, and see if that gives us. Okay, so if I remember right, I think -6 cubed, okay, is -216. So let me check that. -6 cubed. Yes, so I have -216 times 2. So I get -432. All right, now -6 squared will give me 36. So that's 2 times 36. Okay, that's 72. And then -60 times -6, that'll give me positive 360. And let's see if we get 0 here. So let's see. 72 plus 360 is 432. So yeah, it works out. So that guy works. Okay, and then we have to check x equals 5. So I have 2 times 5 cubed plus 2 times 5 squared minus 60 times 5. Does that equal 0? All right, let's see. 5 to the third power is 125. And I multiply by 2, so I get 250. 5 squared is 25. 2 times 25 is 50. 60 times 5 is 300. So does that work? Well, 250 plus 50 is 300, minus 300 is 0, so that works as well. So we get x equals 0, x equals -6, and x equals 5. Okay, and we are good to go.